This is so bad that I had to make a second video, a follow-up video with just me talking about this at length here, because people need to comprehend just how horrible of an implementation or preventative measures to prevent children from consuming matured content. I want to make sure we are explicit here, okay? I'm okay with adult content being censored from children. I actually am. And I understand that's a hot take because I know a lot of people share the same perspective that I have. It's a bit nuanced. I think it falls on the parents to absolutely prevent their children from consuming mature content online. However, I, as a parent, also understand you can't expect parents to watch their children 24/7. What happens when you send your children off to a school and then they look at the other kids' phone on YouTube and they're watching stuff? There are certain things that are out of the parents' control to prevent the children from consuming that kind of content. Now, you can try and put as many discipline and instill as many principles inside of the child as you can, but hey, we wouldn't live in such a fucked up world if influence wasn't so powerful. It is. And so on one end of the spectrum, yes, it's on the parents to absolutely watch their children and ensure they're not consuming content that is bad for them. But on the other end of the spectrum, there also needs to be accountability on the platforms to some capacity, because platforms do have tools they can utilize to help prevent further. I understand this perfectly, but here's where things collapse. What they've done on YouTube right now is the most inconsistent, counterintuitive, counterproductive, ass backwards shit I've ever seen. Let me provide you with some tangible examples here. So I want to pull up one of my favorite bald people on the internet whom I love, Tectone. This is a guy whose content, it's clearly, okay, objectively speaking, it is not for kids, right? If you look at any of this content, you will quickly find out it's not for kids, okay? The things he's talking about is incredibly matured. His language is incredibly matured. And even the things that the beliefs can be incredibly like against what a children should be hearing. With all due respect, if you look at my content, I am also a channel that is not for children. I swear a lot. I cover games that have gambling and predatory practices inside of them. Even I am for protecting children against my content being consumed. But here's where the problem resides here, guys. You see, here's an example where this system works and functions properly. If I turn on restriction mode, it literally blocks Tectone's content. Look, holy shit, look at that thing is having a spasm right there. It blocked the entire year of Tectone's content to, once again, quote unquote, protect children. This is an example of where I think it's functioning just fine. But now allow me to show you an example of where it starts to collapse and the entire thing is not only bad, but it's worse for children, okay? So if you look at my content here, this is what it's showing without the restriction mode on. And I do believe that if you put in a certain age on YouTube, this is automatically turned on for children. You can't even like turn it off. I don't know the exact age. Maybe, you know what? I want to find that out right now. Okay, so based off what I'm seeing here, and these are the references that Perplexity has used to source this information. Children under the age of 13 and even up to the age of 16 they're not going to be able to turn this mode off. Now, let me show you the problem with this mode. If you turn restriction mode on, and I had to double check at this, and I was like, what the all of this is sponsored content. Sponsor, 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 not sponsored, not sponsored, not sponsored, sponsor, 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 sponsor. I'm not lying. And you can just click on any of them and just look right here. Okay, at the top includes paid promotion, and usually it's like legal with the FTC to ensure that you also have like a hashtag ad or includes paid promotion up top. One or the other will tell the algorithm and the AI that this is sponsored content. So I don't recommend it. I do not recommend this, but I'm just pointing it out. If you were to put that in the video, it can't hide your content. Once again, I think you'll get in trouble if you do that, so I don't recommend that. But yeah, This is a literal worse experience for children consuming content. If they were watching that content creator and now they have this restriction mode on, well, now all they're looking at is paid product to sell the product to the child. And the reason the AI can't hide this from people is because it's legally, it's not acceptable. If they were to hide this, you are essentially shitting on the dollar that the client paid the creator to place on their channel to promote it. And so hiding that, you would be basically looking at $1 billion in legal fees from all the different ads that have paid money to have that ad placed onto the platform. And so here we go once again with a idea that I'll be honest, sure, it sounds good. It's been implemented in with good intentions, but you've actually made a worse off platform for the quote unquote betterment of children consuming content. I mean, we have YouTube Kids, as I've stated before. That is the platform for kids. You cannot censor content when there's so many different variables that are going to pertain to the platform known as YouTube. For an example, there's a algorithmic like detection for how your tone changes when you're communicating. And so if you're a passionate individual talking about technology, talking about the latest graphics card, the latest computer, whatever you name it, the algorithm will literally restrict your channel because you're getting a little bit too excited. You see what I mean? Like just a little micro variable like that, and this collapses even further. I am all for children being prevented from watching my niche, which is gacha content. In fact, you would be doing me a service. I don't want any kids watching my goddamn content, nor participating in adult discussions with their immature perspective. It just doesn't help at all. In fact, usually it boosts these gacha companies getting away with garbage implementations into these games and makes the space overall worse. I am for that. But I'm not for like people in the education niche getting censored because they're getting a little too passionate, guys. I'm not for people in the technology niche getting butchered because they're a little too passionate. It's just little things like this that kind of just don't make sense. And I am personally somebody that doesn't mind if my child is consuming content from somebody who's saying damn every now and then or bullshit every now and then, because in my personal opinion, we live in a world where you're gonna hear those words at school and everywhere else outside of your own household. And so I'm completely fine with that, but I understand that's just a hot take and that's also my personal opinion. These are all, like, as I'm talking myself through this though, these are all the reasons of why it's not a black and white situation. It's not as easy as just like, yeah, put the AI in there and just have them just block everything. There's so many colorful like areas that are just making this a problem, man. If you guys get what I'm trying to say. But kids shouldn't be on the internet and kids should have supervision by the parents. Have some children, and by the time they start getting sent off to school and they start going out into the world, going to the park, and you say, hey man, you got 2 hours, you got to be back home. And in that 2 hour span, they're hanging out with little Timmy who does all these things unsupervised by his parents. Then you're going to eat your goddamn words. Guys, you cannot expect a child to be fully supervised 24/7 around the clock. It doesn't work that way. Some of you dipshits grew up just like I did, doing the most goofy things unsupervised, and we just didn't get caught because that's just the way the world works. These external preventative measures are a net positive when implemented properly. Okay, it is a good thing if you are hanging out with little Timmy who's doing all the bad stuff, but his phone is cooked because YouTube says, oop, no, you're 13, this is restrictive. Now, there are always outliers. The kid stole his mom's phone and took it to school. His mom's phone is obviously, she's 42 or whatever. He's going to be able to watch that content anyway. There are outliers, but is there a bit of a positive coming from that? Absolutely. There's always going to be the outliers where you can't do anything about it. That's just to wrap it up. In short, right now, the shit is garbage. Showing sponsored content to children is just booty cheeks, right? Being vague on the descriptions and the tone of the voice and all that is a bit much. That's gonna wrap up all of my thoughts. I don't want to sound very repetitive or tedious. I feel like I'm kind of like saying the same things over and over again. I think hopefully you guys get where I'm coming from. It's from a sense of pragmatism, as always. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. Peace, love, and happiness. Catch you guys on the flip side.